안녕하세요. Hello everyone. Welcome to my class, Understanding Korean Cultural Heritage. This is the day, this is the beginning of the semester. So from now on, I like to provide you a brief, very short clip every week. So you can watch this clip. Probably it's just between 5 to 10 minutes long. I will just discuss a few highlights in the contents of lecture notes. So let's go through some of PowerPoint here. So this is the title of the lesson 1, the basically overview of Korea. So this is kind of overview, as it says. So we're not going to getting into much details about the contents. So very briefly, geographical and historical, ethnic, and lingual features. And finally, the so-called Tangun story, which has to do with the mythological foundation of Korea. So these are the objectives. So at the end of the session, you'll be able to first, you know where Korea is, and who Koreans are, and the language they speak, finally, the mythological foundation of the country. So this is the map. If you take this one first, this is where the Korean peninsula is located. This is northeast corner of the Asian continent, which is the biggest continent in the world. So you can see the distance from the country you live in right now. If you take this course from somewhere, let's say in North America, these are the distance. If you're from China, if you're from Japan or Australia, or some friends from Africa, so these are the distance. And if a closer look, the Korea share the border with China and Russia. And there is a channel here, Daehan Channel, and the is between Korea and Japan. So you can see geographically, Korea lies between China and Japan. So traditionally, Korean peninsula works as kind of channel of cultural flow between China and Japan. So how big is Korea? So that's the next question. Basically, Korea is divided now, North and South Koreas. But if you take whole Korean peninsula, this is the size. So it's over 220,000 square kilometers, excluding the area called DMZ. So it's, if you take both North and South, it's as big as Britain or Ghana. So if you take South Korea alone, it takes about less than 50% of Korea peninsula, the size of Hungary or Jordan. So you can see how big or how small relatively compared to your own native country. The language, what the Korean speaks, is called Hangul. But originally, when the Hangul was invented, it has different name called Hunmin Jeongeum. There is a very important ideological background behind this invention. But you will learn more in the contents of the lecture notes. But basically, all Koreans speaks and write the same language. Again, it helps to maintain the homogeneous culture from early on. So the language alphabet system was invented by King Sejong the Great. You can see the portrait of Sejong, which of course painted afterwards during the Joseon dynasty. Probably Hangul is the only language alphabet system in the world which the original date of invention was known. So you will find out again in the lecture notes. interesting and obvious questions. Why Korea is called Korea? So it's basically it's a transliteration of two Chinese characters, Korea. So it's read Korea. It literally means high mountains and splendid water. So actually, the Korea is very mountainous country. It's a lot of hills. So again, it creates such a diversity in a regional cultures. So again, this term quite nicely reflects the geographical features of the nation. And also it sounds very poetic. You can see it's a land of lofty mountains and beautiful rivers. And also officially Korea is called Republic of Great Han People. If I read it in Korean, it sounds like 대한민국. It's kind of famous slogans during the 2002 the World Cup soccer games. Some of you might still remember the Korean soccer team fans cheering up, saying 대한민국, something like that. So these are the official Korean government seal, 대한민국. So again, this is very brief, the summary of the contents of lesson 1. These are the basic information. If I highlight again, the location of China, location of the Korea Peninsula. You can see it's between China and Japan. Again, this interaction among these three different nations kind of quite characterize the so-called East Asian cultures. So there are similarities at the same time, differences among these nations. So that's very interesting topics you can further investigate during the rest of the class. And it was only 7th century the Korea Peninsula was first unified by Silla Kingdom. There are 10 vowels and 14 consonants. Again, you will find out what those are in the main contents of the class. Again, I already explained about the meaning, what the Korea signifies in terms of the letter it contains. So again, this is a very brief introduction. I hope you enjoy reading the rest of lecture notes I provided. So I'll see you next week in lesson 2. Thank you.